Hey, what's up, everybody? Abram Gonzalez here. Sorry for the little delay. I actually had an interesting thing happen with my computer that we had Keala on, and I think he kind of blew the system a little bit because it's like the second that he came on, everything sort of imploded in like my screen. I just got that little like spinning wheel, and it was like, sorry, dude, you're gonna have to figure something else out. And I told Kayla, I said, I'll be right back, man. I got to restart my computer. Just chill for a second. He's like, all right, I'll chill. And like I could still like I restarted the computer, everything went black, but I could still hear him in my earphones, and I was like, that's kind of strange. And my computer literally would not even turn off. So anyway, here we are. Without further ado, I'd like to kind of just jump in here. And Kayla's from Hawaii, and we've got him on here actually because he's not only is he I put this in my Kayla. Did you see the copy that I put out on Facebook? By the way, did you like that?
I did. I just saw it like 5 minutes before we got on the Hangout.
Right, right. So if you guys don't know Keala, well, first of all, he lives in Hawaii, so he's like 4 hours behind us. I actually don't know what time he woke up, because he can kind of just do stuff whenever he wants to. But he puts the sexy back in Beast, right? And I've kind of had a kind of like I'll admit it, a little bit of a man crush on Keala just because of well more than the fact that he puts the sexy back in Beast. He's just got a really cool story, and we were having a hard time coming up with like the title for this hangout, and we ended up just calling it like I woke up this morning and I had like the idea to call it from trash to treasure, right? Because Kale's got this story that when he tells it to you guys here in a minute, you'll realize why I call this hangout from trash to treasure, because this dude has gone from working in a coffee shop to literally creating over $40,000 in a single month, right? And since we're going to be talking about money a lot on this hangout, just remember that results are not typical. And if you want to see what average looks like, there's an income disclosure at the very bottom of this page. You can click on that. It will show you what average looks like. But we're not having an average conversation today, just so you know. So I'll be asking Keala some questions here. I wanted to bring him out, and my partner Nikki, she's taking care of some other stuff right now. She might pop on at some point here, but we actually have another event that we're doing live here in Denver later tonight, and so we're kind of getting a bunch of stuff going. I'm actually at my parents' house right now, back to where it all began, because they live closer to where the event's happening tonight than I do. So Nikki's taking care of some business. She might make an appearance here later, but back to what we're talking about today. I thought Keala would be the perfect person to come in and really, I think, just kick those limiting beliefs in the ass that aren't allowing you to create the money that you really deserve to have in your life. And not only that, I'll be asking them some questions too, I think, as long as we have time to get into it, sort of like breaking down the numbers and what's really required to earn the income that you desire. Because I remember like a year or 2 years ago, I was talking to somebody. I used to go to all of his personal development seminars, and when I went to his seminars, I remember him telling me something that really created a breakthrough in my mind. And he said, "Do you know how to create a six-figure income?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know how to." And he goes, "Well, if you break it down, you only have to earn like $8,000 something per month, and you have a six-figure income on your hands." That was the first light bulb moment for me, because I'd always thought to myself, oh, I got to earn $10,000 a month, and it was this like mythological creature, right? It was like the unicorn of earning income was like that $10,000 mark, and he broke it down even further, right? And he broke it down to on a day-by-day basis. If you want to earn a six-figure income, all you have to do is earn $287 per day. And that number really stuck with me, right? And that number became the number that I started focusing on, and that number became the number that was like the magical thing, that if I woke up in the morning and I created the marketing and I created the structures and I put the things into place that needed to exist in order for me to generate that money, whether I was working or not, I would become financially free, and I would hit that mythical, right, sometimes seemingly out of reach number that is $10,000 a month. So I want to introduce you guys to Keala Kanae, and have him come out and share his story with you, and then we'll start coming into some of these other concepts. We'll see where the conversation goes today. Remember that your comments are important, right? So if you have questions or you have aha moments or whatever it is, put that stuff in the comments below. I'll be checking it out as Keala goes through some of the stuff that he's going to share with you today. And if you're coming here and you're expecting a breakthrough, that's when you're going to have one. right? So if you have a piece of paper or something, go ahead and pull that out. Make sure you get a pen. If you have a cell phone or something, turn it off, right? Turn it off. Because both Cal and I have results that are probably greater than what you might have had in terms of generating income. And if you're here and you want to learn how to generate income, I don't know if you're with us inside of Empower Network. I don't know if you have some other opportunity that you're in, but you can learn something from this hangout. So it's important to not be distracted, right? So pay close attention. Kayla, why don't you come out and share with people a little bit about your story? I would love if you shared how you have really taken trash and turned it into treasure, my friend. So take it away, bud.
All right, man. Well, this is a really cool introduction. Well, first you started off by talking about how I'm blowing things, and if I was going to blow anything, it would be you, Abram.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! All right, keep going. I'm excited about where this is going to go.
Uh, yeah, no. So what I'll do is I'll kind of share with you here how a purse became the catalyst between a life of like poverty and impoverishment into a multiple six-figure a year income. Uh, and as you continue watching this entire hangout, I'm going to share multiple things over and over again that will help you that have helped me transform my mind and create a new relationship with money. So it was August of 2012, and my girlfriend and I, we were hanging out at my mom's house. And keep in mind, at that time, I'm living with my mom. Right? I'm living in a spare bedroom in my mom's place. I was actually working in a coffee shop. I was earning maybe a little bit over minimum wage, which I'm not sure where you're from, but in Hawaii, a minimum wage is not a living wage, right? Anybody who's working for minimum wage really is struggling to get by. A studio here will cost about $1,200, and I'm talking like 400 square feet of space. So I'm working in this coffee shop. I'm struggling to get by financially. I'm literally upside down every single month. Like my bills, my income does not cover all my bills. So my job isn't even keeping me afloat. It's literally just slowing the drowning, right? And so I'd moved into the spare bedroom of my mom's house. It's August 2012. My girlfriend and I are hanging out at the house, and we noticed that there was this cardboard box sitting on the dining room table. And so, I didn't really think much of it, but my girlfriend ends up walking over to that box, and she starts sifting through the contents in the box. She's like, "Hey, babe, do you know what all these purses are here for?" And I was like, "No, I have no idea." And right as we're doing that, my mom kind of comes walking around the corner. And so we both turned to her and asked her, "Hey, Mom, what is this box of purses doing on the table?" And she said, "Well, I'm just taking those down to Goodwill for a friend of mine. Those are just some old purses she's getting rid of." And as she's saying that, Tiani is my girlfriend. She pulls this purse out of that box. She looks at it and she's like, "Well, this one's kind of nice. Why would they be getting rid of this one?" You know what I mean? And we didn't think anything else of it at the time. She put the purse back in the box. Eventually, we kind of packed that away, and I didn't really think much of it until about 2 weeks later. Right? I'm at this point in my life. I'm living with my mom. I'm earning barely over minimum wage. I'm upside down every month financially. I'm 29 years old, and this is not anywhere near where I plan to be in my life. I have bill collectors calling me almost every day, and I'm like certain that it cannot get any worse than this. And then it did, right? Then it happened. It's like the day before my girlfriend's birthday, I walk into my mom's room, and I'm like, "Mom, is there any chance at all that you still have that cardboard box full of purses?" And she looks at me and she says, "I mean, yeah, I do. What did you need it for?" And I said, "Tiani's birthday is coming up, and I don't have any money to buy her anything." And so we pull this box out of the closet. We sift through it, I find that one purse that my girlfriend liked, I end up putting it in a department store box, and for her birthday, August 2012. Keep in mind we've been together now about 7 years. I'm giving her someone else's trash for her birthday, right? That's how broke I was. And sometimes, as painful as it is to kind of think about that moment in my life, I don't regret it at all, because that became this moment where I made a very clear decision that I was going to change this situation, and it needed to change fast, right? Because I realized that not only am I paying the prices of me not willing to go out there and take on life in the way that I know that I'm capable of. Not only am I paying the prices of me, living kind of like this meager existence. Not only am I paying the prices of me not willing to, stretch myself and take massive action towards anything. Not only am I paying the prices of me not fully believing in myself, but now the people that I love around me are paying those prices. And that to me was just like, that's where I was drawing the line, right? And that's where I made that clear decision that I'm going to transform this situation. Now, fast forward about 8 months later. 8 months later, I'm quitting my job, and I'm having my first like $15,000 month, right? And again, as Abram was saying, it's not, we're going to talk a lot about money, and if you want to see what average people do, then you can, click down on the income disclosure link somewhere on this Hangout. For me personally, I'm not worried about being average, see, because that's back then when I was giving my girlfriend a purse, right? That was like someone else's trash. That was average, and I made a decision not to be that person anymore, right? And you can make that decision right now. So that's kind of the story. That's how this purse like catapulted me from a bank account that was like negative all the time, right, to a six-figure income, with a healthy bank account and the ability to travel where I want, do what I want, spend time with who I want. I get to hang out with really awesome people like Avram and Nikki, who are probably like a couple of my favorite people in the world. Now, I don't mean that I would literally blow Avram. I'm just saying, the man crush is mutual, right? That's all I'm saying. I don't know if you're going to talk about blowing things on your Hangout, but you opened up with that, dude, so I'm just going to kind of roll with it.
Yeah, well, we've talked about a lot of things on our Hangouts. Sometimes it often does take a sexual turn for the better. And I just think that when people get turned on, it's when they really like to make new decisions to buy more stuff and just live a better life. It's like when you get turned on, or you get a heart on, for somebody else, like like a heart on, right? It's like, guys, come on, not too dirty. So anyway, now I'm just distracted. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, man, was a lot of people hear a story like that and they wonder, like, well, what is the stuff that happened in between? And I know one of the things that did happen in between for you that actually was a huge turning point that allowed you to have that mini explosion, that got you from where you were to like that first 15K month, where you broke that invisible barrier that I was talking about earlier, like that 10K, right? And but I know there's an important piece that's right before that. Right, and that's the piece that's like, okay, and I know the question that some people are asking is like, okay, dude, I'm in the same place that you were when all I was seeing was bills that I was backed up that I couldn't pay, maybe student loans, maybe they're in that situation where they literally cannot afford a birthday gift for somebody that they care about. What do you do when all that you can think about and all that you're worrying about is money? How do you bridge that gap into just how do you get your head above water? Is I guess what I'm asking when you're feeling like that.
That is a really deep question, brother.
I know.
That's a whole Hangout right there. Well, okay, so I'll share with you a story, something that happened for me. So there's a couple of things that took place in between. Avram, did you just disappear? Just letting you know, Avram, if you're still there, your screen went entirely black. And I'm going to just keep rolling and see where we go with this. So there was a couple things that took place between that moment where I made this decision that my life had to transform right now, and this six-figure income that I began creating just a few months later. And a couple of things took place. For one, I went to a live event in San Diego, California. It was an Empower Network live event, and I didn't have the money to go to the event when I made the decision to go. I think I had like $37 in my bank account the day I made the decision to go, and it didn't really matter, right? Because I was looking at like, here's the cost of me going to this event, and here's the prices I'm paying because I haven't gone, right? If I don't go, and I didn't want to pay those prices anymore. And I think a lot of times people don't ask themselves those questions. They look at price as like a one-dimensional, like what's the cost of me getting this, instead of what's the cost of me not having it. And so I made this decision I was going to go to this event. I show up at this event, and long story short, I had already understood that events are it's probably arguably the most powerful thing that a human being can experience as an event. And there's a few reasons why I say that. So events pretty much shape our life, right? Events shape our life. And what I mean by that is, as human beings, digging down into our psychology, what happens is an event takes place in our life, and when an event takes place, we as human beings will create either a belief about ourselves or the world around us based on that event. So I'll give you another example. Back when I was 13 years old, my parents, I think, was I 13 or 12? I think I was 13. My parents decided to get a divorce, and my dad walked out. They had this big argument one night. My dad walked out, and then my dad went on to ignore my brother and I for about a year. It was kind of his way of trying to get back at my mom, and show her hey, if he could hurt us, then maybe it might hurt her, and maybe she might change her mind, that kind of thing, right? And I didn't really understand that at the time. All I understood is hey, Dad left, and he won't even I haven't heard from him, right? And what ended up happening, and I didn't realize this until 2009. This is 1996. 2009, 13 years later, I realized that this is what happened. So when that took place, I actually made a decision about myself that I was not lovable. Right? My dad left the family, and now I'm not. And it must be because I'm not lovable, or I'm not worthy of love. And so what ends up happening is, shortly thereafter, about 2 years later, I get into this relationship with this girl who's super abusive, beats me all the time, scratches my face, calls me names. Oftentimes, conversations would end with "fuck you, I hate you, I hope you die." This is what she's telling me, and I'm chasing this girl down, right? I could not get enough of this, right? And consciously, I knew this cannot be healthy. I could probably do better than this. However, I stayed. Right? And when she eventually broke up with me, I was devastated. Okay. Then a few years later, I get into, and I promise you, this is getting to a point. So to continue watching this entire hangout. I assure you, this is getting to a powerful point. So then, a couple years after that relationship ends, I'm in college, and I meet a new girl, and we begin a relationship, and this girl is the complete opposite. That last one, kind of the devil. This one is like an angel, right? She's really, really good to me, cooks, cleans, takes care of me, doesn't have a whole lot of demands. A lot of my friends were dude, this is housewife material, And what did I do? Well, we were together a total of 4.5 years, and after about the first year, I just began slowly pushing her out of my life, right? And eventually things ended between her and I don't figure out why all this is happening until 2009 when I'm taking this personal development course, and I realized that back in 1996 when my dad left the family, I made this decision about myself that I'm not lovable, and therefore when a girl was treating me like a piece of trash, well, that fit the paradigm, right? That fit the belief, so I chased her down and I had to be with her, right? When a girl came along that treated me like a treasure, right? then I had to push her out of my life because that doesn't fit the paradigm, right? It's like unconsciously, it's like, don't you know that I'm not lovable, that, I'm not worthy of love? Like, what are you doing? Why would you treat me this way? So I slowly push her out, right? And all of that, what I want you to understand is all of that happens as a result of an event, one event that took place, a divorce. My dad left, right? And we'll have this over and over and over and over and over and over again in life with people. An event occurs, they create a belief about themselves or the world around them based on that event, and that belief, which oftentimes happens like on this unconscious level or just in a fraction of a second when they say something to themselves, that belief begins to be like anchors in and then becomes the reality they experience going forth, right? Until they decide to change that belief, right? So I already knew that events were powerful. So I make it to this event in San Diego, and I knew I was going. I'm like, there's something to this thing. A lot of people are succeeding. I got to figure out what it is. I'm coming here for a breakthrough, right? And well, that's what I got. It was like the first night of the event. Dave Wood, who's one of the founders of Empower Network, standing on stage. He's in tears. It's this emotional moment, and there's this moment. There's like this ripple in time, this fraction in time, where everything transforms for me. He slams his foot on the ground and he says, "When you have a dream, nothing can stop it." And that moment for me was so powerful, like that literally as it's happening, I can feel my mind and my beliefs beginning to change, because all this time, for 11 years up to this point, I've been an aspiring entrepreneur. For 11 years, I've been, going after thing after thing after thing after thing. For 11 years, I'm taking risks. I'm putting myself out there. And, I'd kind of eventually gotten to this point in 2012 where I'm just like devastated. Like, it's been 11 freaking years, man, and nothing seems to work. I'm continuously coming apart. I'm continuously going bankrupt off of these little entrepreneurial ventures. And I'm beginning to think, like, maybe it's time to give up. Maybe I'm not cut out for this, right? And there's this moment that he slams his foot on the ground and he says this, and everything in my mind changed, because I realized that I had let a lot of stupid things stop me along the way, and I made a decision right there that I was not going to do that this time, right? So there's breakthrough number one between, trash for a birthday gift and a treasure of financial success, right? What was it, like 6 months later? 6 months later, I'm making decent money at this point, and we're heading into this event in Chicago, and I get this phone call from a couple of like top earners who are like, hey, we want to take you out to dinner when we meet up in Chicago. And I'm like, oh wow, that's nuts. Like, why would they call me? So I end up going to this dinner in Chicago. Now, Abram brought up something that's pretty cool that I can relate to, where it's like this constant challenge to get to $10,000 a month, right? Like, that was my goal for so freaking long. And that's like a lot of people that you talk to who want to be entrepreneurs, that's like their goal. It's like, if I could just make $10,000 a month, they think the universe would, like, just reconvene and everything in life would become easy. And I was one of those people too. I felt that way too. And I mean, I would have conversations with my girlfriend all the time. Like, she would want to do things, or she'd talk about traveling, or she'd talk about different goals or things that we could do together. And I'd be like, babe, I'm telling you, like, as soon as I get to $10,000 a month, we're doing all those things, right? And it became this thing that I was chasing down. Now here I am. It's April of 2013, and I'm like back-to-back months. So I guess it was February, I think I did like a little over 8,000. March, I do like a little over 9,000 in personal income. And it seems as if this weird thing happens both months, where like as soon as I get close to that $10,000 ceiling, right, which the ceiling doesn't exist, it's just in my mind. As soon as I get close to that $10,000 ceiling, my income like shuts off all of a sudden. It's like, what happened? Like, nobody's buying, there's no upgrades, what's going on? What do I do? How did this take place? And so I ended up at this dinner with these two top producers, Toby and Layla. Very good friends of mine now, love them to death. And these two are doing like 50, 60K a month. I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? And I'm sitting down at this table in this beautiful restaurant, like in this private room that they've reserved, that is just for like top producers on their teams and whatnot. And I sit down at this table, and Toby looks at me and he says, "Hey, so do you have any questions? Is there something specifically that I can help you out with?" And I said, well, I guess the only thing that I can think of really, Toby, is I seem to be like having a hard time breaking through this $10,000 ceiling. It's been my goal for a really long time. The last 2 months I've gotten close, and as soon as I get close, and I even start to feel like, oh shit, it's gonna happen, my income shuts off, right? And here's what he said. He said, the moment you let go of that, it'll happen. And I'm like, what the fuck? Is this Greek he's speaking? Like, what is that? That's the answer? That's the, you brought me to this nice restaurant, it's like swanky, you feed me some good food, and that's the advice I got, is as soon as you let go of that, it'll happen. And I didn't really understand what that meant. I didn't understand what that meant at the moment, right? Here's what happens next, is the next day, we're all hanging out in Chicago, and we had like a little mini event to attend. I'm spending time with them, and we end up going down into the city to go have some dinner, enjoy some drinks, just kind of hang out and stuff. And we're hanging out in the city, and there's this moment where we're playing some pool at this pool table in a hotel lobby, and we decide, all right, we should start heading back. And Toby goes, yeah, hey, let's just call a limo. Right? I'm like, what? Like, I don't have friends that go, yeah, dude, we should head back. Let's just call a limo. Because we caught the train down there, which was my idea, right? Let's just catch the train. It's like $2.50. Let's catch the train. Now we're heading back, and Toby's like, no, let's just get a limo. And I'm hanging out with, like, it's him, Layla, a couple other folks. They're producing, and they're like, yeah, let's get a limo. So they just start getting on the phone, like calling limo companies. And what ends up happening is we can't get a limo because it's too short a notice, but we get like this limo van, like this nice big black van with this nice leather interior that comes and picks us up or whatever. And we all jump into this van, and I'm listening to this conversation, and crystal clear memory in my mind, I stop for a moment, I look at my girl, and I said, I can do this. I can do this. She's like, do what? I was like, I'm worthy of this, I can make this happen. Like, they're not any better than me, And I looked at, like, how simple that was, how simple a decision that was for them to say, like, yeah, let's go get a limo, right? And I'm sitting in this limo with them, I'm just listening to their conversation, I'm totally just thinking about, I'm totally wrapped up in my own thing, of like this whole experience, and there's just this crystal clear moment where I'm like, I can do this. And when I said it, for me in my mind, it was like, it's already happened. That's what it felt like. It was like, it's already happened. And what I found was, later on I reflected on our conversation that we had at that table at dinner, and Toby had said, well, as soon as you let go of that, you'll hit it. And see, I had kept putting this $10,000 income kind of like above me, right? It's this thing that I'm like going after, right? It's this thing that once I accomplish it, everything in my life is going to be different. It's this like ceiling, right, that I keep telling myself. It's like, well, as soon as I can break this $10,000 ceiling. And then this subtle shift takes place where I realize none of that is even real. None of that exists. There's no ceiling. The $10,000 a month income has already happened. I'm there, right? It's just a matter of time before the results show up physically. And see, as long as I had put this goal out there, and I'm telling my girlfriend, as soon as I make $10,000 a month, this is what our life will look like. Babe, don't worry. I'm gonna get to $10,000 a month. I'm gonna break this six-figure a year, code. I'm gonna. I assure you, and I talked about this all the time, this $10,000 a month income. Talked about it for freaking years to people, right? And the thing is, like, as the more and more and more I talked about it, the more and more it became like this mythical thing that was like a mystery of how to accomplish. And the moment that I just accepted that it was a reality, like that it's there, that it's already happened, the moment I accepted that, literally 2 weeks later, okay, not even a month, 2 weeks later, I'm at like $10,500 in total income for the last 2 weeks. Right. I think I did like 50, I'm pretty sure I did about 15,000 that month. And then
Boom.
I just kind of hung out at 15,000 a month. And so those are pretty much, you know, the breakthroughs that happened in between there. And what I'd say, I guess really all I want to share with that is like is there's this thing that I see people do all the time where they put like this number up that's like, you know, this almost like it almost becomes this unattainable goal in a lot of ways. And I think maybe Abram, you can kind of give this different words for me, because I haven't actually like talked about this a lot.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't know how to describe it, but the moment that I let go of all of that bullshit that I've been telling myself for years, it just clicked. 2 weeks later happened, far behind me now. You know what's cool is like now I can't seem to run away from a $10,000 a month income. Like I can like not do anything for a month and it's still there plus some, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so anyway, you know, I'm gonna pass it back over to you, Abram. But you know, those are the breakthroughs. That's the journey between the decision of giving my girlfriend trash for her birthday and this treasure of, you know, a six-figure income, leaving my job, transforming my life, hanging out with cool people.
Yeah, I love what you said, man, because I think if there's anything to take away from what you just shared, it's like this stuff you can't just sit there and think about it all the time, right? The breakthrough is only going to come to you if you go to it, right? It's like you had to be the one that was in the limo. You had to be the one that was hanging out with Toby and Layla. You had to be the one that was there, that showed up to receive the message, right, that Dave relayed to you from on stage. I think you said that was San Diego, right? When you have a dream, nothing can stop you. And if you weren't in that seat, you would not have had that breakthrough. It's like you could probably have Dave come on this hangout right now and deliver the exact same words that you experienced in that room, and it may not have hit you. It may not have. It would not have hit you the same way that it did when you were sitting there in the chair. Interesting thing is like, when people and we'll just add on to this because I think this is a really great conversation. It's like, so people have this ceiling, right? And you talk about that a lot, and you were like, how do I describe this? Well, let's try, right? Let's try, and then I think people will actually get an idea of how to crack the ceiling and how to get through it. You have this ceiling, right? And you have this idea of something that's so unattainable, right? Because you've been talking about it for a long time, and it never happened. Right? I know for me, when I was going through high school and a lot of college, I hung out with all the nerds, right? It's like we were the nerd squad, you know, and we loved going home and playing World of Warcraft and getting stoned and stuff, right? That's what we used to do. That was our jam, right? And you know, it's like, let's be real. A lot of us, you know, myself included, we were like hardcore virgins, right? And I'll say it, it's like the pussy was on a pedestal. Okay, and it was this thing that, I mean, it's a good freaking metaphor because it was so unattainable. And the thing is like, and I'm going to draw the parallel here, when it was our turn to receive, right? We were nowhere to be found, right? We weren't at the place where we needed to be to find love, right? Or to find the one night stand, whatever it was, right? We weren't there to receive. And when I go to like events and stuff, I'll find people out in the hall that are chatting, having bullshit conversations with people, and when I walk inside and I hear the person on stage that's delivering a message, I have to laugh because I realize how perfect this message that's on stage would be for that person that's missing out on their breakthrough, that's hanging out outside having a conversation that doesn't mean fuck all to where they want to be, right? Most people are asking to break their glass ceiling and to go to the next level, but when you look and you try to find out where the heck they are, you can't find them. They're nowhere to be found, right? And so I think like the biggest part that I take from hearing what you're talking about and putting it into different words is like, you'll never break the ceiling if you don't show up. You'll never break the ceiling if you don't make a decision like you made. You made a powerful decision because you were sitting in a seat, you were where you needed to be, and how much, dude, how much stuff came up to try to stop you from going to San Diego?
Oh, dude. Oh, okay. So, oh man.
Right?
First off, the day I make the decision to go to San Diego, I get home from the mall. I'm listening to a Monday night call. I get home from the mall. I'm like, all right. So there must be something to this. So first off, okay, there's all this talk about the San Diego event, and I'm like one of those people that's like, listen, all right, I'm broke, okay? As soon as you prove to me that this thing is going to work, then I'll go to your stupid event. That was like obstacle number one, right?
Right.
That's the first thing was like my mindset I had to break through. And so I'm getting on all these Monday night calls, and for the first time I asked myself, what if I need to make it to San Diego for this thing to work? Right? Here I am trying to say, you prove to me it works, and then I'll go. And I'm like, wait, what if I need to go for it to work? Right? Totally different. And so I flip the switch. I get home. I got $37 to my name, literally. Okay. The amount of money it costs to buy the airfare from Hawaii to San Diego when you fly across the Pacific, if anybody's ever been here, right, it's a little bit more, it's a little bit pricier, right? The money it costs just to get the ticket is about what my 2-week paycheck is, right? So it's close to like 70 hours of work, okay, for me. So that's one thing where it's like, I'm like, how the hell am I going to come up with the money? Didn't matter, because once I made the decision I was going to go, I found the money. Then there were all these little things, like these little challenges of me coming up with the money that took place, from like going through my closet, trying to find stuff from Craigslist to put on, trying to find stuff that I own that I can put on Craigslist. There's me going to work, putting up these stickers, I mean not just stickers, but these notes on the refrigerator saying, if you want any shift off, any day off, let me know. I'll take any shift, any day. Just call me. Here's my number, right? So I'm starting to pick up shifts. Then I get in trouble for getting overtime, right? Because
Right.
they didn't like paying overtime, right? They didn't know that was part of my master scheme, so that one day I'd be leaving that place. But then I get in trouble for like getting overtime. I'm just like, well, whatever, like fuck it. It is what it is. Write me up if you want to write me up. It's cool. I got shit to do. I'm on a mission, so get out of my way. Then, like 2 days before I leave, dude, check this out. 2 days before I leave, I've never told anybody this before. 2 days before I leave, I'm having a meeting with a few friends of mine, and we had like started like this little mastermind gig, and it was like a mastermind of broke people. Great mastermind to be in, right?
Yeah.
Because
Oh yeah.
broke people who want to do something more. So we'd like meet every other Monday, I think, or something like that. And I'm talking with them about this trip I'm going to go on, and a couple things happen. For me, all of a sudden I start feeling like, oh my God, what am I thinking? Like I'm putting all this money out to go on this trip, and I've failed miserably for the last 11 years. Why would this be any different? Right? So all the self-doubt starts to creep in. To make it even better, my best friend at the time, right, who's also at this, in part of this little mastermind thing, is like, yeah, man, I don't know why you're going. I mean, I looked at that thing. I don't really think it's going to work. I wouldn't blame you if you just canceled your ticket and stayed home. At least you can take a trip next year or something. Take a trip next year with that ticket that you bought, because it'll be good for a year, and just stay home. So he was like kind of talking me out of it. Now that guy's like the #1 producer on my team, and we've laughed about it before, where he's like, yeah, I almost talked you out of going, and he did. It was close. The morning that I woke up to get on the plane, there was like all this resistance, right? There's like, oh man, it's not too late. I could back out right now. Why am I doing this? All this stuff comes up. So there's like all these series of obstacles standing in the way, and I don't really know like unconsciously what was happening that caused me to break through all that. I'm just saying like it wasn't an easy decision. It wasn't like, oh yeah, sure, I'll go to this event. Oh yeah, this would be great. There's all these things that like were slowly piling up that were like stopping me. We're getting in the way. And there's a really cool thing that Abram just said, that it's not about breakthroughs coming to you. And I've had conversations with people who kind of like behave that way. They're like, yeah, as soon as I have this breakthrough, everything's going to change. And it's like, dude, you got to go chase after that damn breakthrough. You know what I mean? You don't even know when it's coming. You have no idea, right? Like I've asked people, like, do you know when that breakthrough's coming? No. Well, then, what? So what are you going to do? Sit around and wait for it, or are you going to go down and are you going to go chase after it? I'm like, oh well, good point, because that's what I was doing. Like I didn't realize it in that moment, but I was chasing after something. Like something needed to change. Something had to change, and I was sick and tired of paying the prices I had been paying, right? And so I was willing to do whatever it takes to get to this event, to transform my income, to get the results that I wanted in life. And I was now at that point chasing down the breakthrough. And here's a cool thing: today, I'm still chasing breakthroughs. Today, right? I've come a long way financially, and yet there's a longer journey ahead. Right? There's bigger goals and bigger things that I want to accomplish ahead, and I'm still chasing breakthroughs. I'm still getting on, weekly calls. I'm still getting out to these events. I'm still, jumping on hangouts like this one where I grow and stretch. Where Abram says something, I'm like, totally. I'm just like, yeah, totally get it, dude. Thank you for rewording that in my mind. Right? I'm constantly chasing the breakthrough. I'm reading. I'm listening to audio. Right? I'm just constantly putting myself in this place where, you get to this place where you cannot keep doing what you're doing and remain stuck. You can't do that. Like you can't. There's like this builds of this momentum, this desire, this like fortitude of like, fuck, I'm just gonna do this no matter what it takes. And then you just know that there's no way that as long as you follow that inspiration, as long as you continue down that path, there's no way that you can stay stuck, right? There's no way I can stay at six figures doing what I'm doing right now because I'm constantly moving towards that breakthrough, right? I don't know when it's coming, right? I've had many since the ones that we're talking about on this hangout. But it's really like it's this pursuit of it rather than a lot of like a long time before this. I just kind of was like, one day something's gonna click and my life will transform. That's kind of how I thought.
You're like avoiding it. Waiting for a breakthrough to come to you is also avoiding it. Like I remember when resistance became my friend. Resistance became my friend back in 2010 when I did this. Did I tell you? I think I told you about this when I got online. I did like a video every day in 2010. Did I tell you about this?
Yeah, you told me about that. You told me about that back when we were in Anaheim, I think.
Okay. I didn't know if I told you that because people are always like, dude, like. Or they hear about it and like, why didn't you ever like share this story before? And I'm like, I don't know, I forget because like sometimes you just forget the moments in your life that were so powerful when you have so many of them, And like I think like my birth as like the person I am now really happened in 2010 because I started chasing resistance. And I decided to go out and do something brand new every single day that I'd never done before, and I would pick up a video camera and I would record it. And I would put it on YouTube, I'd put it on my blog, and that was a transformational experience for me. And I began to see resistance and to see uncomfortability and to see the points where I was like the most freaked out about whatever experience I was about to go through. I began to see those moments as my friend. And it sounds a little funny to say it like this, but I would see an experience and it would almost be like surrounded in light. Now I'm not saying like I was hallucinating and like seeing light, but I was like drawn to a situation, even though it freaked me out incredibly to go do it. I would be drawn to the situation because I had this breakthrough from chasing it so much that the more energy and like weird stuff that came up in my world, right? The more weird stuff that came up in my world, the more I knew I would be rewarded as soon as I went through it. So like to put this into like something tangible, like what happened to me last night was interesting. I had been doing a lot of stuff yesterday to prepare for not only this hangout but some other stuff that we have going on, and I knew we'd have some travel today in order to get down here to my parents' place, in order to facilitate some of the stuff that's in between now and this event that we're doing at the hotel tonight. Like Thursdays are this crazy day, and I'm the kind of person that, I'll be honest, I wait till the last minute to do a lot of stuff. I will procrastinate. Somehow I want to prove to everybody or to myself that I'm some sort of like superhero where I'm like, yes, I did it in 20 minutes. Can you believe I created this entire sales page in 20 minutes before the hangout? That's kind of like how I roll sometimes, but I've been getting better, and I noticed that the more that I do it, the more that I get ahead of these things, the better things tend to go. So I'm sitting there last night, and I had the option to either go to bed, or go watch TV with Nikki, right? Because she'd been doing stuff all day and we just wanted to relax. I had the option to go do that, or write the damn email that needed to go out early this morning, so people even knew that this hangout was coming. And the resistance to doing that was phenomenal, right? It was like, no, Hulu was like screaming my name, and it was like, Abram, come watch me, and let's have some fun. And it was like, and I'm like, yeah, let's go have some fun. I've been working so hard today. And the reality was that I saw that, and I heard those whispers, and I felt those tugs. And what I decided to do instead was to go write the damn email, and then go relax, right? And I don't think there's a coincidence that we've got like 70, 80 people on this hangout right now, because I know that when I wait till the last minute, we get like 20 people. You know what I mean? And it's those small things built up over a long time that will keep you really, really trapped. And it's that resistance. And sometimes you'll have seriously wacky stuff happen that will try to prevent you from breaking through your ceiling. Right? Seriously wacky stuff. I mean, I'm telling you, like, family death, right? Or like all of the pipes in your basement burst because there was a record-breaking snowstorm that hasn't happened like this in 35 years, the day that you're supposed to deliver an event or a hangout or a presentation that's going to change your business forever. That's the kind of shit that will show up, that you will create. It doesn't seem connected, but I promise you it is, because you've been broadcasting your entire life these frequencies and these ideas and these structures for how your life is supposed to look. So if you have been focused unconsciously your entire life, 10,000 is your ceiling and you shall never break free. The moment that you get close to it, the universe will conspire on your behalf to create the exact reality that you've been creating your entire life. So if 10,000 has been it for you, guess what? All the resistance will come up, and again, I'm saying it like this for a reason. The universe will work on your behalf, right? Because you're the one that's been putting out the broadcast. And here's one more thing that I'll add, and then I feel like you've got something to say too, Keala. It's like you get to this point. If you've been digging a ditch your entire life, and you've been hanging out in the ditch, right? Hoping that one day that you will see the light of day, it's going to take a little bit of effort to reverse the curse, right? The one that you've been living in, the one that you've been creating your entire life. You don't just magically, one day, instantly go from being in the ditch to all the way out of it, right? Now, you make the decisions that completely rearrange the universe from there on out to get you out pretty dang quick, as long as you're willing to let go, like what you said, Callie. You got to, Toby told you this, dude, just as soon as you let that go, man, you're going to break free. And I remember when I asked somebody, I said, well, what do you mean I just got to let go? Like, what does that mean? And they're like, dude, if you had a hot coal, like I was like, how do you let go? They're like, dude, if you had a hot coal in your hand and it's burning your flesh, are you going to ask me how to let go, or are you just going to let go? And it's like, you're going to figure out a way, and you will do it, right? You will do it. The challenge, I think, is, do you really want to get to the point where it's burning your flesh before you do? Do you really want to get to the point where it's burning your flesh before you do? Maybe it's burning your flesh right now, and you're like, I got to let go of this. I got to put something into place to help me get out of this hole. right? And there's like a reason that you showed up, and there's a reason you're hanging out and you're having a breakthrough with this conversation that Cal and I are having, and you're like, you know what? I want to meet these guys. I want to become a part of whatever it is that they're doing. I'm just going to like click this button below. I'm going to fill in the information on the next page. I'm going to get started and become a part of whatever it is that these guys are doing, right? Maybe that's you and the coal is burning. Or maybe, even worse, you're in a situation right now where things are okay. And they're like average, and you look back at like where you were last year and you're like, nothing's really changed. I'm not really feeling amazing, and I'm not really feeling like shit. But at the same time, it's burning a hole inside of my soul, knowing that what's waiting for me is so much bigger. And I think that's the hardest place to be, is when things are kind of average, and it's also one of the things I wish on nobody is an average life, because it's that average that will put you into a trance. Honestly, it'll put you into a trance of thinking everything is okay, when honestly it's not. And underneath everything, you've been stuffing it down, trying to rationalize why things are okay, and that's exactly why the coal is burning a hole through your heart, slowly, in such a way that you don't even realize it's happening until you get to the end of your life, and it's a life that you wish that you would have lived in a greater way. If you're living a life that's average, you can turn it around now by making a decision to like click the button below and just get started with us. You know, because again, I wish on nobody to have the average life. You know, you're actually blessed if you're in a situation where the coal is burning a hole in your hand, because you're like, shit, I gotta make a change. You're like where Keala was, you know, in all those different times where he showed you it was time for him to make a decision, right? The coal was burning a hole through his entire body, and he's like, shit, I gotta make a change or I am going to die on the inside. You're actually kind of blessed if you're in that kind of a situation, because now it's a powerful place to make a decision that will change your life forever, right? Because it's easy to get lulled into average, and I've been there, and it sneaks up on you. And I never went on that vacation. Like, I never did that thing that I said I was going to do. And I don't feel very good about it.
Dude. That's why I have a crop shop. Yeah, there's a couple of things that you mentioned that are like really important. There's a I'm just gonna mutual on this end, echo on this end.
Okay.
What a retard! I muted myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, I can't even hear you.
All right, so there's a couple of things that you mentioned that I realized later as I was moving through this $10,000 ceiling. I realized that because I had been having this internal conversation with myself for so long about this $10,000 ceiling, I had created this identity, right? That I was on this unconscious level. I was afraid to escape, right? Because I create this identity of like I'm the guy who's shooting for this $10,000 a month income. Well, what becomes of me if I hit it? Who am I then, right? Who do I become at that point? What do I stand for? What am I going after then, right? And I realized it around that time. I'm pretty sure I realized it while I was in Chicago with Toby and Layla, that like one of the things that I had unconsciously done is created this identity that was keeping me from ever having that by constantly talking to myself in this way of like, you know, I'm going after this $10,000 a month income. And the other thing that you mentioned that I think is really cool, and this is something that I do my best to remind myself very often, is good is the enemy of great. Good is the enemy of great, right? Good is like this awful place where things become really comfortable. And the challenge with things becoming comfortable is, you know, there's a lack of motivation to do something different, right? It's literally the enemy of great. And one of the things that I like that you said, Abram, is there was this point in 2010 where you began to chase resistance, right? You began to like seek it out and then break through it. And what I found is that I that's something that I enjoy doing as well, where I find myself sometimes in these places where I'm like, all right, well, when was the last time I really pushed myself beyond my limits? When was the last time that I did something that I was afraid to do? Right? Because I'm consciously aware that there's like this good is the enemy of great, and I don't want to get caught up in this place of like, well, things are like really good right now. Why do anything more? Right? So I'll find myself in these places every now and then where I'm like asking myself like, when's the last time I challenged myself? When's the last time that I did something I was afraid to do? When's the last time that I felt like saying no, but instead I just said yes anyway and went for it, right? And that's one of those things that I do that to help continue to push me through the next threshold, right? To continue to chase after the breakthrough. And there's a couple of things I want to share because I know we're getting kind of close to the end here. There's a couple of things that I want to share. One of the things that I've learned over the last couple of years is and I discovered it before that. It's just that it's really been something that I've begun to put in practice. Is a lot of this conversation that we're having today. We continue talking about this ceiling, which really, if you're, it helps to affirm that there is an actual ceiling that doesn't actually exist. It's really not there. And so what I like to do is like be aware of the words that I use, of the things that I speak into existence, and to affirm the reality that I want to have every moment that I can. Because recently I was on this trip to Maui. I'll share this story with you. I was on this trip to Maui, and it's just like a random. It wasn't all that random, but it was like spontaneously one day at like 1 in the afternoon. I'm like, hey, let's go to Maui, right, for a couple days, and like 6 in the evening, we're on a plane headed over to Maui, which is one of the outer islands here in Hawaii, in case you didn't know. So we head over to Maui. The next day, we're hanging out with a friend of ours. She's driving us around, and we head into this area of Maui where it's like, that's where the rich people live, right? And I forget what the name of the area, Wailea, okay? And we're driving through, and there's this like little shopping center, and it's kind of like this high-end shopping center. Right? She says, the girl driving, my friend, she says, oh yeah, like here's the shopping center. This is where all the rich people shop, right? And I looked over and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh yeah, like they got like Louis Vuitton and Fendi and I saw this store, St. John's, right? And I looked at my girl and I was like, oh, that place is expensive. And the moment I said that, I was like, what the fuck did I just say? Right? What the hell am I talking about? Right? Because every time I say to myself that something is expensive or something is, what I'm doing is I'm affirming that it's outside of my reach. Right? Because that's not actually true. Right? St. John's is not actually expensive because to other people it's cheap. Right? To other people it's like their Sunday shopping destination just because they can. Right? But because I'm like inside myself with all these beliefs running around, I look outside into the world and I say, that's expensive, this is affordable, right? And as I do that, I continue to create that trap. I continue to dig that ditch for myself. And so I do not use the word expensive anymore, except in this hangout. And every now and then I'll catch myself about to say it, and I'll be like, whoa, like. And my girlfriend Tiani, she'll correct me when she hears me say it. She'll be like, babe, what did you just say to yourself? And I'm like, oh, you're right. And then I'll look at that thing and I'll say, that's affordable. That's something that I would pay that money to have, right? And begin to reaffirm that into my life. And so the reason I share that with you is because what I found is like when I dig in and I start really paying attention to the thoughts and the things that I speak into existence, that's when I begin to transform the world around me and begin to fit it into a paradigm that is consistent with the life that I want to have. And the other thing that I discovered, and I discovered this after years, right, after like 11 years of struggling, And I'll be honest with you, when I first became an entrepreneur, the first time I made this decision that I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to go after this dream, I'm going to go do this thing and I'm going to live this extraordinary life and not have a boss. When I first did it, I was like totally wrapped up in the get rich quick mindset. I was like totally like, dude, I'm going to do this thing and here's how it's going to work. I'm going to do it and I'm going to be super rich real soon, right? And it didn't really turn out that way. And what happened was, like, that was like nightclub promotions. 2.5 years later, I was still failing at it. And when I finally broke through, I eventually gave up on it. It's like now I started making a little bit of money, and then I left. Then there was like, thing after thing after thing after that. And I was always like in this place where I was looking for the thing, right? I'm looking for, okay, so, that didn't really work. What's the next thing I can do? What's the next thing I can do? What's the next thing I can do? And the challenge with that is that it has absolutely not a damn thing to do with the thing, right? It's like how stupid I was when I said to myself, oh, when you prove to me that this thing works, then I'll go to your event. It's like, how the fuck is the thing going to prove anything, right? It has nothing to do with the thing, right? It's what I realized in 2011. I don't even know exactly how this all, or 2012. I don't even know exactly how this all came to fruition, but I looked out and I said, and I realized that, like, every single person earns money. So we're getting back to the money deal here. Every single person earns money in equivalence to the skills that they have, right? Like the janitor earns like a minimum wage income, let's say, right? And Abram, you and I talked about this very recently. The janitor at your job, they earn like minimum wage or maybe a little bit over minimum wage. And why do they do that? Well, because the janitor skill set is not in high demand in the marketplace. And why is it not in high demand? Because it's an easy skill set to acquire, right? Like anybody can learn how to mop a floor, anybody can learn how to unplug a toilet, anybody can learn how to sweep and clean up at the end of the night, right? It's not I mean, I was able to do most of what a janitor does, and I'm not being rude to janitors. I'm not saying like, hey, look, I don't want to clean up my own facilities everywhere I go, so I'm grateful for janitors, okay? I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying that I was able to do a lot of what they do back when I was like 15 years old because that was like some of my chores and stuff, right? So because those skill sets are easy to acquire, there's not a huge demand in the marketplace because if your janitor quits at your job tomorrow, the company can replace them the next day. You know what I mean? Like they're going to put an ad on Craigslist. They're going to get like 20 people who apply, and they're going to replace those skill sets that they lost within their organization in no time, right? But then you have your doctor, okay? Then you have your doctor. Now think about your doctor. Does your doctor get paid what the janitor gets paid? I'm going to say probably not, okay? The doctor. Now think about what the doctor did. Like think about what their skills are. Like they went to school for like 9 to 10 years. Okay, they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, over $100,000 at least, in an education. Right? They read. I would estimate at least 100 books that they've read. They've taken hundreds of tests. They've gone through some of the most rigorous education that exists. They've learned things that most people just like give up on the moment. You know, like I know for me, when I opened a book on biology, my brain froze. It was like, this shit's boring, you know, and I was done. But they broke through that, right? They did some other. They managed to move through that anyway. They left that education after 10 years, right? And they went out and they interned at a hospital under an actual physician for like a year or two, right? Before they even got to this place where they could really start earning the real money in their business. So they went through like 10 to 12 years of education, commitment, financial investment in themselves, and then they have the income that they have now. Why do they have that income? Because the hospital does not want to lose that doctor, right? Because those skills are not easily acquired. They're not going to put an ad on Craigslist the next day and have 20 people apply and hire one, right? They're not going to have somebody walking off the street and they're going to go, this is how you do brain surgery, right? The skill sets are much more valuable because they take time, energy, and effort to learn, and most people are not willing to learn them. So the hospital doesn't want to lose that doctor, so they're willing to pay him way more, right? Him or her, way more. And so when you understand that like the money that you earn will always be a direct result of the skill set that you have, then money is no longer a mystery, because it's really like, now there's some other things that go on. You know, there's the internal beliefs about what you believe you're worth. Right? There was a point when I was like giving up on myself, so I ended up at a coffee shop earning minimum wage. You know, like I could do it better than that. I'd had jobs better than that, but I was coming apart inside. You know what I mean? However, when you unravel this, money becomes not such a mystery anymore. It becomes like, okay, so in order for me to earn an income, the income I desire, I need to acquire the skills that create that income. And that is an applicable, like that's a daily thing that you can do every single day. You know, the other day I was sitting on this webinar, right? I'm like on these email lists from all of these world's like top internet marketers, and I get this freaking email about like, you got to see this webinar from my friend John Benson. And so I get on this webinar and I'm watching this guy teach how he sells, like his selling formula, like his literal script that he uses in everything he sells. This guy's like 8-figure earner on the internet, right? And at the end of the webinar, he's selling a $2,000 education, a $2,000 educational package. And I mean, I'm not invincible to this stuff, you know. I mean, I'm definitely not going to get on here and tell you that I'm some sort of superhero and none of the challenges you face or that we're talking about do I have to deal with anymore. It's not like that, right? So I'm looking at this buy button. I click on it, and I'm staring at this buy page. And I'm like, it's fucking $1,997 to buy this training. Do I really want to spend that right now? You know, do I really want to? You know, there's other things that I can do with that $2,000, right? Like I can invest it in traffic right now and go make. I almost look at everything income. Like when you here's a cool thing: when you acquire cool skills, life transforms. Like everything takes on new meaning. So what I've learned to do with the skills that I have is I can turn $1 into $5 over and over and over and over again. So sometimes when I'm looking at an education like that, a decision like that, I'm looking at like, well, this isn't really $2,000. It's really $10,000 because I could take that $2,000, you know, run it through use the skills that I've acquired, and I can turn it into $10,000, right? And then I begin to ask myself, okay, so would I pay $10,000 for this education? And then I just got to remind myself that the income that I want to earn will be a reflection of the skills that I have. And if I'm not at the income that I desire, then I don't have the skills to get there yet. And now here's somebody who has the income that I desire, who's acquired the skills, and they're offering to share those skills with me. Now, if I paid $10,000 for this, what are these skills really worth? And those skills are worth like millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, because the people that have them, that's what they earn. So is it still worth $10,000 for me to buy? Yes. And so I bought it, right? And the reason I share that is because that stems from a realization I had where I realized that the only thing standing between me and where I want to be financially, I mean, it's not really the only thing, but it's one of the big things, is that I don't have the skills to get there yet. Right? And if one other person has done it, like I got online in 2010 and I fucking failed miserably for 2 years. I mean miserably. I bought product after product after product after product after product from guru after guru after guru after guru. I was like building blogs and trying to brand myself and did all this like crazy ridiculous stuff, running like ad campaigns that were like, wow, I just lost $150 in a day and I don't even like have money, you know? Like I had to scrounge up that $150 that I just tossed away in a day. You know, I got online in 2010. Why did I stay long enough to 2012 to actually have a breakthrough and you know, catapult my life into a whole new dimension? Well, I stayed because I realized that if one person is doing it, I can do it. There's nobody on this earth that's better than me. There's nobody out there that's smarter than me. There's just people who have different skill sets than I have, and if one person can do it, I can learn what they learned to make that happen. That's it. So most people like won't even stick with internet marketing for 2-3 months, right? But because I understood that like if one person can do it, and it's just a reflection of their skills, then I can eventually learn those skills as well. And ultimately, wrapping this all back into what we're really talking about at the end of the day is, as you're watching this right now, you probably feel this compelling feeling to click the button right below this and get started. And here's what I'm going to say, that's absolutely the feeling that you want to follow right now, is simply because, listen to what I just said, the only thing that's separating you between the life you want and the life that you have right now is that you don't have the skills to make that dream life your reality yet. And what's going to happen when you click that button is you're going to open up a page, you're going to fill out that page, you're going to click submit, and it's going to take you into your back office. And the first thing that you're going to want to do is click on Fast Start Training, watch Lesson 1, right, the income formula, and get started there, because what you'll discover is that all we're doing is teaching you the skills to bridge the gap between where you are right now and where you want to be. And that's why I love what it is that we do, because everything is, we don't focus on the thing, right? There's not like a ton of focus on like, oh, this bells and whistles thing is going to make you a ton of money. No, we focus on what's really going to make you a ton of money, which is you transforming yourself, one, internally, and then also in regards to the skills that you have that you can begin applying right now to bridge the gap that you're facing. And what you'll find is, as you learn those skills, it's actually a much shorter bridge than most people think, right? Than most people think it is. I remember being in this place in my life where I looked at $10,000 a month and I thought it was a fucking like mystical unicorn of like, how do I get there? You know what I mean? And now I'm like, now I can't run away from it. Now it like happens without me doing anything, right? Why? Skills. Right? So, and there's a cool thing that happens when you recognize the truth, is that if this part of you begins to come awake, and as this part of you becomes awake and begins to come alive, it gets broader and it begins to shut down everything going on in the background. You might even lose sense of your surroundings as this part of you comes alive, and all you can feel is the desire to pay close attention to what you're watching right now, and then click the button and get started, and know that you're in this place where you're transforming your life and bridging the gap between where you are and where you've always desired to be. And you can click that button right now.
Beautiful. It feels good to click the button.
Oh,
it feels good to click it.
She's never me. Yeah.
It feels good to get access to the information, to learn the skill sets, right?
Absolutely.
And it feels good to buy your ticket to Orlando and come hang out with us in October. So, hey man, I appreciate you for coming out, Keala, and I'm sure everybody here does too, because as I was watching while you were talking, the number of people that were hanging out with us just kept climbing and climbing and climbing, which just means that there's a lot of juicy stuff going on here. It started off by talking about blowing things, then man crushes, and then it just ends up with juicy gold nuggets, right? So I think there's 3 things that you want to do. Well, first of all, just guys, give it up for Cal in the comments. Let him know how much you appreciate him for coming out, sharing with you. What are those breakthroughs, right? Maybe you're having the breakthrough now, and you actually have this like experience later tonight when you're out to dinner with friends, or a month from now when you have your first $5,000 or $10,000 month, and you're like, you know what? It was that moment that Keala said this thing that everything changed. We want to know about it, right? We want to know about it so we can celebrate that stuff with you. Right, and to wrap things up, 3 things you need to do. If you're not in, get in. Just click the button below, get started with us. It's easy to get started, and it will feel good, right? It'll feel good to get out of your comfort zone and do something you've never done before. I did it for a year, changed my life, right? Second thing is, if you're already in, just get all in. You need access to the skill sets, right? Just like Keala talked about, if you don't have the skill sets, you ain't going to get paid more than a janitor, because you'll be just like everybody else and you will not be any different, right? And the third thing is you want to come meet us in Orlando at the end of next month. You want to get your tickets to that. It's like $150 or like $200 for like 3 days. And I don't know about you, Keala, but we're going to show up a few days early and go hit the theme parks So if you want to come join us for that, anybody else wants to come, you got to be in, first of all, and you got to be in Orlando to come hang out with us. Would you have anything else to add to that, man?
No, man, you're good. And I'll say this, I'll say this, dude. Getting to events, that's the deal, dude. That's where the riches are. That's where the breakthrough happens. That's where all the magic takes. The best thing that I truly believe the best thing that you can do is get yourself around people who have the results. Because it's not even just listening to them. It's just being around them. Just being around them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it goes. I could tell stories all day long about all the different times that I had breakthroughs, even just on this hangout, man. You know, they're everywhere, and we're getting some funny feedback, by the way. I think we probably said "dude" about 600 times in this hangout, and you know, that's just that's just how we roll, man. So so we'll wrap it up. We'll see everybody in Orlando, and you know, I'm gonna just click exit here, but my other computer is just so frozen. It might just be a black screen by the time that we're gone. So I appreciate you for coming out, Cal. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week. We're going to have another cool guest on, but you'll have to find out who that is. All right? Appreciate you, man. Take care.
Take care, brother. Thanks, guys.